Today we will look at BMW E34 Touring. It is an M5. We've had this car for a while, but somehow we've never taken an undercarriage video, although it's been on the lift before. I'm not really sure why that happened, but just a short story on the car itself. We've bought it probably close to 2 years ago. Maybe it was over 2 years ago, somewhere in that range. Car came over from Europe. We sold the car immediately. It wasn't even advertised. We sold it to a customer of ours who lives in New York. He had the car for about a year and decided to sell it back to us because he purchased some other cars. And we knew the car, so we figured we will just buy it back. When the car was under his ownership, he did replace the exhaust. I'm not really sure why. I wish he kept the original one because there was really nothing wrong with the OEM exhaust. He put a very nice Super Sprint exhaust, but it would still be nice to have the OEM exhaust with the car. This is a catback, and I will show it to you as well. Now let's take a look at it. I already looked at it briefly, and the car looks pretty good. And when I say that, let's keep in mind that this car is over 30 years old. But I guess the most important thing is I don't see any rust, so that's gotta be good. But let's just look at it and look at details and see what we got. Oh, I got a light here that I thought it was working, but it does not. So we'll just see how much we can see without that flashlight. So let's start from the back. Again, we got a brand new Super Sprint BMW. It's exhaust made for this car, so this is not some kind of a cheap eBay stuff. It's a pretty nice exhaust, and it goes all the way to catback. There is, as you can see, there is really no rust on any of the components here. You can see some floorboards there, and it all looks pretty nice and good. There is a little moisture, although, is that really? Yeah, there's a slight moisture on this rear diff. Actually, it's more of a dirt. Nothing is leaking out of it, so that's important. And then you can see some surface rust on some bolts and a couple of brackets, just surface stuff. Again, you can see a lot of it is original. A lot of these components have not been replaced in a long time. And then you get these areas that usually rust, but this one looks pretty clean. And here are all your brake lines, and they all look pretty good too. Which is very important, and brake lines, they usually rust fairly quickly. But if you look closely, you can see they are black, which tells me that at some point the car was sprayed with rust protection, and it was probably a very long time ago. We obviously haven't done any of that. And then you got floorboards here and areas behind front wheels. And again, I wish I had a little better light, but I thought this light was working. It's not working all completely. Over here it does look like some additional rust protection was done. It doesn't really look like any major repairs or anything. Maybe this was also damaged from lifting the car. But the car is resting on this lift point here, and it's pretty solid, so really no rust to speak of over there. And then you have front suspension that looks pretty good. It's all original. It's a Bogie EDC suspension, by the way. That EDC suspension is all original. It has to be rebuilt because especially the front struts are pretty bouncy. And you can either get this rebuilt, or you can just eliminate that and just put regular suspension. From what I understand, you cannot buy these EDC components anymore, and they are very expensive. So if you decide to swap it to just regular either coilovers or just regular springs and struts, and then you sell the EDC, they'll probably pay for your new suspension. I don't really see what the hype is about this EDC stuff. I guess if you are a purist and you want to have the car with original suspension, I can see why you want to keep these. But as far as how they make the car ride and how they feel, I don't really see the point. We just sold another M5 Touring with EDC that was completely rebuilt by the previous owner, and I was not impressed with the way the car handled and rode. I mean, it handled well, but the ride is pretty harsh with the EDC stuff. We have another E34 Alpina, which is more of a hardcore car than this, much quicker. And it has just a regular suspension in the front, and it has self-leveling from a Touring in the rear, and it drives so much nicer than an M car. If we look at the engine and everything that's up front here, it does look moist, but again, when the car is in the showroom, we don't really see a lot of oil. I think there was a drip or two maybe after the car sat for a couple of months. If you look at it, it's not really leaking oil. It's relatively dry, your oil pan over here, but there is some moisture here on the bottom. And not seeing anything going from up top, it makes me think that all that little oil could either be from the mounting of this oil level sensor, or it could even be from the drain plug. And then if you look up over there, again, I wish this light was a little better. It all looks pretty nice and dry. There is no belt on the compressor. You can see some yellow dye here. The compressor needs to be rebuilt. The AC does not work, so we took the belt off that compressor because it would be pointless. So the AC does not work. The compressor needs to be either replaced or rebuilt. And then if you look at the front here, there is some surface rust, and again, this is just surfaced. Some paint is flaking off, and that's all you see. And then the same thing over here, just surface stuff. And I don't think I showed this side here. So again, no rust, although this area does look like it has some additional coating that was done in the past, but everything looks really good. The floorboards look great. And I can't really see anything else. Tires look okay. The car drives solid. I mean, engine, transmission feel amazing. Obviously the suspension in the front is a little bouncy, so when you get to higher speed you can feel that. But that's really about it. Call us with questions.